The distant stars twinkled peacefully over South Korea as Dr. Kim adjusted her telescope. For 5 years she had worked at this small observatory, watching the night sky for anything unusual. Tonight seemed like any other, until it wasn't. "Hey, come look at this," she called to her assistant Lee. "This object's trajectory doesn't match any satellite patterns." Lee rubbed his tired eyes and peered at the monitor. "Space junk, maybe?" "I don't think so." Dr. Kim's fingers flew across the keyboard, tracking the mysterious object. "It's slowing down. Space debris doesn't do that." The object settled into Earth's orbit, barely visible against the blackness of space. For 3 days, Dr. Kim tracked it, sleeping at her desk and living on coffee. Something about its behavior seemed intentional, almost calculating. On the 4th day, the strange visitor suddenly changed position, moving with impossible speed toward one of Earth's major communication satellites. Before anyone could react, the satellite went dark. "What just happened?" Lee asked, staring at the screen in disbelief. "I don't know, but we need to call someone. Now." Within hours, Dr. Kim found herself in a video conference with military officials from around the world. Her discovery had triggered a global security protocol so secret that even she hadn't known it existed. "We've been monitoring unusual signals for years," explained General Choi, his face grim on the screen. "We hoped we were wrong." Then the screens around the world flickered and a face appeared, but not a human face. The being had smooth grey skin stretched over sharp features, with eyes as black as the space between stars. "People of Earth," the translator program interpreted, lagging slightly behind the strange, clicking language. "I am Emperor Taek of the Dosu Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our glorious realm. You have 1 rotation of your planet to surrender. Resistance is inadvisable." The message repeated once. Then the screens returned to normal, leaving stunned silence in its wake. Dr. Kim was immediately flown to a hidden facility beneath a mountain where scientists from every nation had gathered. The atmosphere was tense but focused. "We detected their fleet behind the moon," said Jin, a young physicist with dark circles under his eyes. "Hundreds of ships, all bigger than anything we've ever built." Dr. Kim nodded, trying to process the information. "Show me everything you know about their technology." For hours they analyzed the limited data they had, the strange probe, the destroyed satellite, the brief transmission. It wasn't much, but something caught Dr. Kim's attention. "These energy signatures," she said, pointing to the screen. "They're similar to the quantum frequencies we've been studying for medical imaging. It's like they're using quantum entanglement for instant communication across their fleet." Jin's eyes widened. "If they're relying on quantum communication, then we might have a way to disrupt it," Dr. Kim finished. Outside the facility, the world held its breath. News of the alien ultimatum had spread quickly. Some people panicked, fleeing to the countryside or building shelters. Others gathered in places of worship or with their families, but many stayed at their posts: doctors in hospitals, engineers at power plants, teachers with their students. The world waited, but it did not stop. Above them all, hidden behind the Izu moon, the Dosu fleet prepared for what they expected to be an easy victory. They had conquered 17 worlds before Earth, and none had resisted for long. Their sensors showed primitive technology, divided nations, and no space defense system worth mentioning. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment without even realizing it. Projects developed independently across the globe: quantum communication studies, experimental weapons, advanced AI systems were now being rapidly connected and repurposed. As night fell across South Korea, Dr. Kim stepped outside the facility for a moment of fresh air. She looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere up there, the Dosu were watching, waiting for Earth's surrender. "We won't give up that easily," she whispered to the sky. Behind her, the door opened and Lee appeared. He had followed her to the facility, refusing to leave her side during humanity's darkest hour. "They've called an emergency meeting," he said. "The first of their ships is moving toward Earth." Dr. Kim took one last look at the peaceful stars, then turned back toward the door. Humanity's first contact with alien life had been a threat, but if she had anything to say about it, it wouldn't be Earth's last day. The Dosu Empire was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humans. The message from Emperor Taik played on screens worldwide, causing waves of panic. People rushed to stores, emptying shelves of food and water. Traffic jammed highways as families fled cities. But in the underground facility, Dr. Kim and her team worked with fierce determination. 24 hours, muttered General Choi, checking his watch for the 5th time that hour. That's all the time we have before they expect our surrender. Doctor, Kim barely heard him. She was lost in the data streaming across her monitor, analyzing the quantum frequencies the Dosu used for communication. Next to her, Jin and Lee worked just as intensely, their faces lit by the blue glow of computer screens. Look at this pattern, Dr. Kim said suddenly, pointing to a repeating sequence. Their quantum communication system operates on a frequency. That's dangerously close to what we've been experimenting with for medical imaging. It's like we've accidentally been developing technology that could interfere with theirs. Jin leaned closer, eyes widening. You're right. If we could broadcast a signal on this exact frequency, we might be able to disrupt their communications. Lee finished. The door to their lab swung open and a young soldier rushed in. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. They followed him to the main control room where dozens of screens showed live satellite feeds. One of the Dosu ships had moved from behind the moon and was hovering above the Pacific Ocean. They're demonstrating their power, General Choi said grimly. They watched in horror as the alien ship fired a beam of energy into the ocean. The water began to boil, creating a massive cloud of steam. When the beam shut off, there was a mile-wide dead zone in the water. No life, just floating carcasses of fish and marine animals. That was just a warning shot, said the general. Imagine what their fleet could do to our cities. Dr. Kim felt her stomach clench, but she pushed the fear aside. We need to get back to work, and we need access to every quantum research facility on Earth. Within hours, scientists from across the globe were connected in a virtual conference, sharing data and theories. Countries that had been enemies for generations now worked together, united by a common threat. Meanwhile, in homes across the world, families huddled around televisions and phones watching for updates. Governments advised people to stay calm but prepared. Emergency services were on high alert, and military forces around the world moved into defensive positions. What if we surrender? Someone asked during a tense meeting of world leaders. The Dosu have conquered 17 other worlds, replied a grey-haired diplomat. None of those species exist anymore except as slaves. Surrender isn't an option. Back in the lab, Dr. Kim had a breakthrough. Their quantum communication system is complex, but has a critical weakness. It's designed to be foolproof against any attempt to intercept or decode transmissions. But they never anticipated that we'd try to jam the entire frequency range. Can we do that? Asked Lee, rubbing his tired eyes. Not globally, Dr. Kim admitted, but we don't need to. We just need to disrupt the communication between their command ship and the attack fleet. Jin pulled up a satellite image of the Dosu fleet. We'd need to get close enough to broadcast directly at their command vessel. How do we do that without being detected? A voice from the doorway answered. With this. Captain Park stood there, her uniform wrinkled from days without rest. Behind her were engineers wheeling in what looked like a modified satellite. This is a prototype stealth vessel, she explained. It was designed to deploy spy satellites undetected. We've modified it to carry your quantum disruptor. Dr. Kim inspected the vessel with growing hope. This could work, but someone would need to pilot it dangerously close to the Dosu fleet. That would be me, Captain Park said with a tight smile. I've assembled a small team of volunteers. As they finalized their plans, another Dosu ship moved into position, this time above Beijing. The city held its breath, waiting for another demonstration of alien power. But instead of firing, the ship simply hovered there, a silent threat. 16. Hours remained until the deadline. Around the world, people prepared for the worst while hoping for a miracle. Some wrote letters to loved ones. Others prayed. Many simply held their families close, treasuring what might be their final hours together. In New York, an elderly couple danced in their apartment to their wedding song. In Rio, neighbors shared a meal in the street, breaking bread together under the shadow of fear. In a small village in Kenya, Children continued their lessons. Their teacher determined that education would continue even at the end of the world. These moments of humanity weren't lost on Dr. Kim. As she worked, she kept a small photo of her parents on her desk, reminding herself what she was fighting for. "The quantum disruptor is ready," she announced finally. "It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do with the time we have." As technicians loaded the device onto Captain Park's stealth vessel, General Choi approached Dr. Kim. "If this doesn't work," he said quietly, "I want you to know that your discovery gave us our only chance. No matter what happens, you've already made history." Dr. Kim nodded, then turned back to make one final check of her calculations. She wouldn't allow herself to consider failure, not when the entire human race was counting on them. Outside the facility, the night sky was unusually clear. Stars shone brightly, oblivious to the danger approaching Earth. Somewhere up there, the Dosu waited for surrender, never expecting that. Humanity's first warning might also be their last. The deadline expired with Earth's answer clear: no surrender. In orbit, the Dosu fleet moved with practiced precision, emerging from behind the moon like a swarm of giant metal insects. Their ships glinted in the sunlight as they positioned themselves above major military installations around the globe. In the command center beneath the mountain, Dr. Kim watched the radar screens with her heart in her throat. Next to her, General Choi coordinated with defense forces worldwide. "All units in position," he confirmed, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "May heaven help us now." The first attack came without warning. Beams of energy sliced through the clouds, targeting military bases in North America, Asia, and Europe simultaneously. The room filled with reports of explosions and casualties. "They're hitting our defense systems first," someone shouted. Exactly what we expected. What the Dosu didn't expect was what happened next. "Activate countermeasures," General Choi ordered. Around the world, experimental defense systems hummed to life. In the 3 years since strange signals had first been detected from deep space, the world's governments had secretly collaborated on defensive technology. Hidden bunkers housed electromagnetic pulse generators, abandoned missile silos concealed, energy shields. What appeared to be ordinary satellite dishes could focus concentrated bursts of microwave energy. The Dosu attack faltered as their beams met unexpected resistance. In some places, invisible shields deflected the energy. In others, the attacking ships found their weapon systems suddenly malfunctioning. "It's working," Jin exclaimed, watching the data flow across his screen. "The EMP bursts are disrupting their targeting systems." In Earth's orbit, several smaller Dosu vessels spun out of control, their navigation systems temporarily blinded by electromagnetic pulses. One crashed into another, creating a spectacular explosion in the upper atmosphere that was visible from the ground. For the first time in the history of their expansion, the Dosu faced resistance they hadn't anticipated. Emperor Taik watched from his command ship, his grey face darkening with anger. "Impossible," he hissed to his generals. "Their technology is primitive. How are they doing this?" Back on Earth, Captain Park prepared for her mission. Her team of 6 volunteers checked their equipment one last time before boarding the stealth vessel. Dr. Kim handed her the quantum disruptor, a device the size of a microwave oven that represented humanity's best hope. "Remember," Dr. Kim said, gripping Captain Park's hand tightly, "you need to get within 500 kilometers of their command ship for this to work. Once you activate it, you'll have about 30 seconds before they detect the source of the disruption." Captain Park nodded grimly. 30 seconds should be enough time to deliver our message. She didn't mention that it wouldn't be nearly enough time for her team to escape. As Captain Park's team prepared to launch, the Dosu regrouped for a second attack. This time, they targeted power grids and communication networks, attempting to blind and silence Earth's defenses. Cities went dark. Internet connections failed. But backup systems installed in secret over the past 3 years kicked in almost immediately. The silence lasted only minutes before emergency broadcasts resumed. "People of Earth," announced a calm voice on every working radio and television, "remain in your homes or shelters. Our defense forces are engaging the enemy. This is not the end." In rural areas and small towns, Ordinary people watched the sky with a mixture of terror and defiance. Some took pictures or videos of the distant flashes of light that marked the space battle. Others simply held their loved ones close and prayed. In a small fishing village on the coast of South Korea, an old man stood on the beach, watching the strange lights in the sky. His grandson tugged at his sleeve. "Grandfather, aren't you scared?" The old man shrugged. "I've lived through war before. If this is my last day, I'll spend it looking at the ocean, not hiding in the dark." High above them, Captain Park's stealth vessel slipped past the Dosu fleet's outer perimeter. The ship was barely larger than a bus, painted with light-absorbing material, and equipped with technology that masked its heat signature. It was nearly invisible to conventional sensors. "We're passing the first defensive ring," her pilot whispered, as if the Dosu might hear them through the vacuum of space. "No signs they've detected us." Captain Park nodded, watching through the view screen as they navigated between massive alien warships. Each one dwarfed the largest aircraft carrier on Earth. Their surfaces were covered with weapons ports and strange, glowing symbols. "There," she said, pointing to a vessel nearly twice the size of the others. "That's our target, the command ship." As they maneuvered closer, the battle intensified below. The Dosu, frustrated by Earth's unexpected resistance, escalated their attacks. This time they targeted cities New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, all came under direct fire. But as the beams descended, they met focused electromagnetic shields. The attacks didn't disappear completely, but their power was significantly reduced. In the command center, Dr. Kim and her team watched anxiously as Captain Park's vessel approached its target. "They're almost in position," Lee reported, tracking the stealth ship's progress. 400 kilometers from the command ship, 300, Dr. Kim held her breath. The future of humanity depended on what happened in the next few minutes. 200 kilometers, Lee continued. On the radar screen, a small dot representing Captain Park's vessel moved steadily toward the much larger mass of the Dosu command ship. Around them, the battle for Earth raged on, a dance of energy beams and electromagnetic pulses. 100 kilometers, Lee announced. They're in range. In space, Captain Park looked at her team one last time. "For Earth," she said simply, and pressed the activation button on the quantum disruptor. The device hummed to life, broadcasting directly at the Dosu command ship on precisely the frequency that Dr. Kim had identified. If they were right, what happened next would change everything. The quantum disruptor hummed to life in Captain Park's stealth vessel, sending invisible waves toward the massive Dosu command ship. For a few heartbeats, nothing seemed to happen. Captain Park exchanged nervous glances with her crew, wondering if Dr. Kim's theory had been wrong. Then alarms blared throughout the Dosu fleet. On the command ship, Emperor Taik watched in horror as his control systems flickered. The quantum communication network that linked all Dosu vessels was experiencing interference unlike anything they had encountered before. "What is happening?" he demanded, his normally composed demeanor cracking. His chief scientist frantically analyzed the disruption. "Someone is broadcasting on our communication frequency. It's causing a cascade failure throughout the network." Back on Earth, Dr. Kim and her team monitored the situation from the underground facility. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife as they waited for any sign that their plan was working. "Look," Jin pointed at one of the screens showing the Dosu fleet. Several smaller ships had stopped firing and appeared to be drifting. "They're losing control of their vessels." The quantum disruptor was working better than they had hoped. The Dosu ships relied heavily on their instantaneous communication network for coordinated attacks. Without it, they were forced to fall back on more primitive methods that required time they didn't have. In orbit, Captain Park knew they had seconds before the Dosu traced the source of the disruption. "Send the message," she ordered her communications officer. Their transmission cut through the chaos of the disrupted Dosu network. "This is humanity's response to your ultimatum. We will not surrender today or ever. Return to your empire and spread the word. Earth is not yours to take." Almost immediately, energy weapons from nearby Dosu ships turned toward their small vessel. "Evasive maneuvers!" Captain Park shouted, but she knew they had little chance of escaping. Their mission had been about delivery, not survival. Just as the first enemy weapon fired, something unexpected happened. The beam veered off course, missing them entirely. Then another shot went wide, and another. Their targeting systems are failing, the pilot realized with growing excitement. The disruption is affecting more than just their communications. Down on Earth, engineers and scientists worldwide were taking advantage of the Dosu's momentary weakness to push humanity's defenses even further. In Japan, a team repurposed satellite dishes to focus microwave energy at specific Dosu ships. In Brazil, physicists redirected a particle accelerator to fire concentrated beams into the atmosphere, creating localized electromagnetic pulses. In a university lab in South Korea, students who had been working on a project to improve cell phone signals discovered their equipment could be modified to jam certain frequencies used by the smaller Dosu vessels. Within hours, similar devices were being built in garages and workshops across the country. Dr. Kim received reports of these developments with growing hope. "This is what humans do best," she told General Choi. "We adapt. We improvise. We find solutions where none seem possible." The general nodded, a grim smile on his tired face. "Let's just hope it's enough." In cities around the world, ordinary people joined the resistance effort. Amateur radio operators helped relay military communications when official networks failed. Truck drivers delivered essential equipment to defense installations. Computer programmers worked around the clock to analyze Dosu transmission patterns, looking for additional vulnerabilities. A high school physics teacher in Mumbai figured out how to convert microwave ovens into small-scale EMP devices capable of disrupting Dosu ground forces if they attempted to land. Her instructions spread across the internet like wildfire, and soon people everywhere were dismantling their kitchen appliances to build makeshift weapons. Meanwhile, Captain Park and her team continued their dangerous dance among the Dosu fleet. The quantum disruptor was working better than anyone had dared hope, but it had limitations. Its power source was draining quickly, and they knew the Dosu would eventually find countermeasures. "We need to get closer to the command ship, Captain," Park decided. "If we can plant the disruptor directly on their hull, it might affect their primary systems, not just communications." It was a suicide mission, and everyone on board knew it. But they also knew what was at stake. As they maneuvered closer to the enormous command ship, they caught glimpses through viewing ports of the aliens inside, tall, gray-skinned beings moving in panic as their technology failed them. The Dosu had never faced a serious challenge in their conquests before. They had no protocols for this kind of resistance. On the command ship, Emperor Tyche was facing the first real crisis of his reign. "Prepare the planet killer," he ordered. In desperation. "If we cannot have this world, no one will." His officers hesitated, shocked by the command. The planet killer was a weapon of last resort, never before used in conquest. It would render Earth uninhabitable for centuries. "Emperor," his chief scientist protested, "our forces are still in orbit around the planet. We would lose them all." "I have spoken," Tyche roared. "Prepare the weapon." Unaware of this new threat, Captain Park's team had reached the hull of the command ship. Using magnetic grapples, they secured their vessel to the much larger ship and began cutting through the outer plating with laser tools. 5 minutes until we reached their central core," reported the engineer. Dr. Kim's voice crackled over their communication system. "Captain, our sensors are detecting a massive energy buildup in the command ship. Whatever they're planning, it's big." Captain Park looked at her team. They had come prepared for this possibility. From a secure compartment, she removed what looked like a small silver sphere, a device developed in secret by the world's top physicists. "The quantum virus," she said quietly. "Once we reach their core, this will spread through their entire system instantly." It was humanity's ultimate weapon against the Dosu, a construct of code and quantum particles designed to infiltrate and disable their technology completely. It had been a theoretical project until 3 days ago, when Dr. Kim's discoveries made it possible. As they cut through the final layer of the ship's hull, Captain Park held the sphere tightly, thinking of her family back on Earth, of all the HFY families depending on this moment. "For humanity," she whispered, and prepared to deliver a message the Dosu Empire would never forget. The hull of the Dosu command ship peeled open under the laser cutter, revealing a corridor bathed in eerie purple light. Captain Park and her team slipped inside, moving quickly and quietly through the alien vessel. The air had a metallic taste, and the walls pulsed with strange energy. According to the scans, their central core should be 3 levels down, whispered her navigation officer, checking a handheld device. They encountered surprisingly little resistance. Most of the Dosu were focused on restoring their failing systems or preparing for the planet killer's deployment. The few guards they did meet were quickly subdued with stun weapons specially designed to affect Dosu physiology. 2 minutes until the planet killer reaches full charge, warned Dr. Kim through their earpieces. Back on Earth, she was monitoring the energy readings with growing alarm. Captain Park quickened her pace. Almost there, she assured her team and the listeners back. Home? The quantum virus felt warm in her hand, as if eager for its purpose. The central core of the ship was a massive chamber filled with swirling energy. Columns of light connected floor to ceiling, and in the center, a spherical structure pulsed with increasing intensity. This was the heart of the Dosu command ship, and their target. That's it, Captain Park said, pointing to a control panel near the sphere. That's where we need to place the virus. As they approached the panel, a voice boomed from above. Humans! Emperor Tyke stood on a platform overlooking the core, surrounded by armed guards. His grey skin appeared almost translucent in the pulsing light, and his eyes reflected the energy swirling around them. You surprise me, he continued, his voice translated by devices Dr. Kim had programmed based on earlier transmissions. In all our conquests, no species has ever penetrated a command ship. Captain Park faced him calmly. There's a lot about humans you don't understand. We don't surrender easily. A fascinating trait, Tyke said, almost admiringly, but ultimately futile. In less than a minute, my planet killer will deploy and your world will become uninhabitable. He gestured to the swirling energy in the core. This power will poison your atmosphere, boil your oceans, and end your species. Your resistance, impressive as it was, changes nothing. Captain Park smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped, for the Emperor himself present in the command core. Maybe, but first we have a message from Earth. With a swift motion, she tossed the quantum virus directly into the energy core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere dissolved, releasing its payload into the swirling energy. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The purple light turned blue, then green, as the virus spread through the quantum network at impossible speed. Alarms blared throughout the ship. The energy columns flickered and died. The core itself dimmed, the planet killer's charge dissipating harmlessly. Tyke's face contorted with rage and disbelief. What have you done? We've introduced a quantum virus into your systems, Captain Park explained calmly. Even as Dosu guards surrounded her team, it's spreading to every ship in your fleet right now, disabling your weapons, your navigation, your life support, everything. Back on Earth, Dr. Kim watched as one by one the Dosu ships went dark. Their energy signatures dimmed, weapons powered down, and propulsion systems failed. The mighty armada that had threatened Earth just hours ago now drifted helplessly in orbit. It worked, she whispered, hardly daring to believe it. It actually worked. In the command ship's core, Emperor Tyke received the reports of his fleet's total failure with growing horror. His mighty empire, which had conquered 17 worlds without serious resistance, had been defeated by a species they had dismissed. As primitive, kill them, he ordered his guards, pointing at Captain Park and her team. But even the personal weapons of the guards were failing, affected by the spreading virus. Captain Park stepped forward unafraid. You still don't understand, do you? We knew this was a one-way mission when we came here. We're prepared to die for our world. She gestured around at the failing ship. But are you? Your life support systems have about 6 hours before they fail completely. That's how long you have to retreat back to your empire. She activated her communication device, connecting directly to Earth's United Defense Council. The faces of world leaders appeared on a holographic display, visible to all in the core chamber. This is Captain Park. The quantum virus has been successfully deployed. The Dosu fleet is disabled. The president of the Global Council spoke clearly, her words directed at Emperor Tyche. Hear me, Emperor of the Dosu. This was our first contact with galactic civilization, and it will be your last warning. Return to your empire and spread the word. Earth is not to be threatened. The quantum virus had been designed not to be permanent. After 72 hours it would dissolve, allowing basic functions to return to the Dosu ships. Just enough time for them to limp home, but not enough to regroup for another attack. You would show mercy? Tyche asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Unlike you, we don't destroy civilizations, Captain Park replied. We just want to be left alone. In the hours that followed, the defeated Dosu retreated. Captain Park and her team were allowed to return to their vessel as part of the agreement. As they pulled away from the command ship, they watched the once mighty fleet struggling to regroup for the long journey home. Do you think they'll be back? Asked one of her. Crew Captain Park looked at the fleet, then back toward the blue marble of Earth. No, they'll spread the word. The species who defeated the undefeatable Dosu, the planet that fights back. When Captain Park's team returned to Earth, they were welcomed as heroes. People lined the streets in every city, celebrating not just survival, but a new understanding of their place in the universe. Dr. Kim met Captain Park at the landing zone, embracing her tightly. We did it, she said simply. We all did it, Captain Park corrected, looking around at the cheering crowds. Every person who refused to surrender, every scientist who worked around the clock, every civilian who built defenses from microwave ovens. This was humanity's victory. In the weeks that followed, the world changed. National boundaries seemed less important in the face of what they now knew existed beyond their atmosphere. Resources once dedicated to fighting each other were redirected to space defense and exploration, and, somewhere across the galaxy, the Dosu Empire added a new mark to their star charts. A small blue planet circled in red with a simple warning attached. Do not approach.